What's up guys, Everything Apple Pro here, and in light of a recent release, I wanted to revisit this series, as is tradition, and compare every single iPad ever made in a new 2016 version. So what's happened since the last version? There's been a new iOS 9 update, 9.3, and a new iPad. So chronological order, there have been about 6 generations of iPads.
Everybody uses a laptop and or a smartphone. And the question has arisen lately, is there room for a third category of device in the middle?
Oh man, it's hard to imagine it's been 6 years already. The newest arrival is the new iPad Pro 9.7, an incredible tablet, one of the best displays, an amazing camera, very fast, but how does it compare to the rest? So let's put every iPad to the test in 2016 and start with the startup test. Now all are connected to the same power bank, making sure they start at the exact same time. As you can see, I am running out of room on my wall, so I had to shift to the garage using the garage door. So first device to start up is the famous iPad Pro. You'd think the second strongest would be next, but nope, the iPad Air 2, then the original iPad, then the iPad Mini 4, iPad Air, and Mini 2. So last time I did this test, all were running 9.1, now 9.3.1, which supposedly brings speed improvements to lower end devices. So coming in 8th place, the iPad Pro 9.7, then iPad 4, and then the iPad Mini in 10th place. That's a little disappointing for a new device. Then the iPad 2, and wouldn't you know it, in last place, the iPad 3. Notoriously known as the worst iPad ever made. It was just underpowered, it had a Retina display, but wasn't ready for it. So next up, let's get into the nitty-gritty details and run a Geekbench to see how these all compare power-wise. And here are the results. So the iPad Pro does very well. It's the best, then the slightly underclocked iPad Pro 9.7, and then we go all the way down. Now take a look at the naming scheme. It just becomes so dang strange. Apple, they're all over the place with the lineup. For single core score, the iPad 3 was the worst. Now here is the mini lineup. Of course, the older they get, the more powerful they have gotten as well, and the iPad Mini 4 being the thinnest of them all, it's most impressive that it has such high scores. So this is the Geekbench in terms of power, but let's shift to some other tests here, and let's take a look at some Wi-Fi speeds. So performing a Wi-Fi speed test about 50 feet from the router, the speeds are all over the place, but of course the Mini 4 is in the lead, Mini 1 is second place. Next up, I decided to test the HTML5 scores compatibility. They're all the same here. And for the rest of the iPad lineup, you can see that the Wi-Fi signal has a greater speed and range here. And performing an HTML5 speed test, all of the iPads are running the same OS except the original, yet the iPad 3 still manages to fail in another category. And here is a synchronized loading of reddit.com. So you can see that there is a progression from the iPad Pro all the way down, and the iPad original being in last place. And a couple other tests. So I wanted to see how hot these iPads get. I noticed that going from one to another, sometimes one can be way hotter. And after loading GFX Bench for about 10 minutes, this is the result I've gotten. The iPad 3 and iPad 4 were the most unoptimized, I guess, the hottest. Then going to a speaker test, I actually managed to test the highest decibel output. Notice this doesn't mean it's better just because it's higher, but it did get higher towards the newest iPads. And moving on, the final test, I wanted to test the camera capability. iPad 1 doesn't do very well in low light, as you can see, and then going to the 2 and 3, not much of an improvement, but the 4, Air, and Air 2 were where I noticed the biggest improvement jump. Then the iPad Pro 9.7 with the fully fledged iPhone 6s sensor, and here are the minis. So healthy progression here, it does get better and better. Cameras have never been a strong point of iPads, but they certainly have gotten better. And in general, this video did highlight just how much better these iPads have gotten throughout the years. When they first arrived, there wasn't really anything wrong with them, but now they just